the Isis mystery school, Taoism and Taoism, which carries lots of sexuality. We use the senses, we use the body to awaken. That's why sexuality is part of it, because with sexuality, I can achieve the divine. I can become the divine. Everything is divine because I recognize that my partner is God or a goddess. So that means that when we're making love, I am making love to God.
Welcome to the Hot Pot. The guest I have here today, Fabiola Perez, doula and yogini with over 10 years of experience in guiding individual spiritual transformation. And she specialized in sacred sexuality, alchemical breathwork. And in fact, I knew her from the series of sacred sexuality, alchemical breathwork that I took with her this year. It was such amazing experience that I have so much progress of embracing my masculinity and feminine quality. And today I have this honor to invite her into my podcast. So welcome, Fabiola. What's keeping you busy lately?
Hello, thanks for having me. What's keeping me busy? Well, the main thing that keeps me busy is my clients as a therapist. That's definitely what I do 4 days a week in sense of like busyness. But I guess my life itself is just being really full right now of fun and experiences. I've been in these last couple of months of just saying yes to life and saying yes to experiences just like this one. I've been having lots of fun with what people invite me to do. So that's been definitely keeping me full.
Thank you so much again for saying yes to coming to my podcast. So what's your life before you start doing this incredible, passionate thing that either a therapist or alchemical breathwork facilitator?
So I've been teaching yoga for probably 10 years now. So this has been a path that I've been on for a while. It's just kind of changes direction, or life leads me one side or the other one. So in this kind of like a spiritual path, first I started teaching yoga. Then that led me to teaching prenatal yoga. Then that led me to become a doula. And then that led me to become a therapist. And then that led me to become more like a tantric yogini. So it's always an evolution of my spiritual path, I will say.
Wow, definitely. You only get to know where you at by taking the steps. You never know where you're gonna end up belonging.
Yes, I think that's how my life has unfolded. As I said, I just keep saying yes to whatever shows up. And then that has led me through a pretty good path, I guess, of self-discovery and also being able to share these with others, which is definitely like one of my passions, to share whatever I'm learning or experiencing. Because when you find something that you're so passionate about, we have talked about that before, you just want everyone to know it, right? When something really helps you, you're like, I need to share this with people. So that's been my path for a while now.
100%. That's how I started the podcast as well. But definitely life has unfolded differently for every one of us. Since I have joined your sexuality alchemical breathwork, I'm just wondering, what is your journey before you begin to explore more about Tantra, more about embracing the masculinity and this sexuality alchemical knowledge?
Yeah, so many years ago, probably like 13 or 15 years ago, I went to a Tantra workshop in Mexico. And it was basically breathwork, what we did. But it was not called breathwork back then. Now that's more like a buzzword that we're using. And I remember I entered into a trance state then. And when I came out, I was like, what was that? I want some of that. I want more of that. Right? So this person was a tantric teacher, and I signed up for his newsletter because before social media was not what it is now, right? And I started getting all his tantric workshops and retreats, and it was very much based on sexuality. So I was in my early 20s, and that seemed like a lot for me, with all the shame that we carried about sexuality is something that we shouldn't be talking about. It's something that you keep hidden. So I guess I kept it hidden in my newsletters and I tried to learn, just Googling it and trying to learn about it. And I guess I just put it like in a box for a really long time until as I started studying yoga, I started really understanding what Tantra is. That Tantra is not sex. Like actually sexuality itself, like intercourse, is only like a tiny percentage of what Tantra is. Tantra is a whole philosophy. It's a esoteric tradition, and sexuality is not the main thing. So once I understood that, then I guess part of me relaxed and started learning more about it. And then during COVID, when, you know, we all had to figure out what to do with our free time, and a lot of people were just giving a lot of free information on social media, that's how I found my teacher, my Sacred Sexuality Alchemical Breathwork teacher. And then I started like shedding the shame on sexuality in order for me to learn and teach these, right? Okay, what's stopping me from sharing about sexuality? What are people going to think? I come from a very Catholic country, right? So what are my friends back home going to think if I start talking about sexuality? And also to answer your question, in Tantra, the feminine and the masculine energy are primordial energies that we work with. So as I was also healing from a breakup and learning about the feminine and the masculine and how to integrate that, it became a very important part of my healing after a long-term relationship breakup. How to heal my inner masculine and how to heal my inner feminine in order to be able to trust again to be in another relationship in the future. So that's a lot of information in a nutshell of like my path into Tantra and sacred sexuality.
That one point that you brought out about having the shell and the shame over sexuality, I think that's really something that a lot of people nowadays, they still have it, especially in, I'm not sure about Western. I definitely feel like Western, they're more open to talk about sexuality in a more healthy way. But in Asia, I feel like a lot of people, they're still bringing into this awareness of healthy sexuality and being able to talk about it in a public place is even harder for a lot of people. I want to resonate with you on that, feeling shame and the guilt over just to talk about it, to explore this sexuality even more. It's like we're doing a bad thing that's not supposed to do. We're crossing the boundaries. So I wanted to bring back to you were mentioning about embracing your masculinity and feminine. Can you share a little bit more on what are the core qualities of the sacred masculine and feminine? Before we dive into deeper into that concept, I wanted to let our audience know that what exactly the quality of masculine and feminine and how are they complement one each other.
Yeah. Okay, so we have Shiva and we have Shakti, which are the representations of the masculine and the feminine. We have to first understand that we live in this world that we live in the material world. One of the laws of the universe is duality. Okay, so based on that, in this world, we have attached the words feminine and masculine. But it has nothing to do with the gender expression, sexual preference, nothing at all. It's just very easy for us to understand it now as feminine, as masculine. But originally, if we go thousands of years back, it was not feminine and masculine. It could be like in Hinduism, in Tantra, in yoga, it would be like Shiva and Shakti. Okay, so we can also use the sun and the moon. Right? We can use masculine is direct energy. Feminine is flowy energy. The masculine is, because it's linear, is direction, right? Is persistence, is stillness, is consciousness itself. And the feminine is that flow, is creation, is creativity, is expression. If we see the darkness of the masculine, it can become dull. From stillness If it's more on the dark side, it becomes dull and heavy and like that lack of purpose. The feminine in its dark space is chaotic. So again, to clarify, it's not that women are chaotic and men are dull. Like, no. So we all have those. But if we have too much masculine, this can happen. If we have too much feminine, this can happen. Those are like the very basic principles of that yin yang.
If you put it in yin and yang that way, I'm sure that a lot of Asian community are more familiar with that. It's not really about female or male. It's actually about yin and yang, that everyone has that within ourselves. Throughout your sexual alchemical breathwork, it helped me to understand more about that we all have this yin and yang, masculine and feminine quality inside of us. During the process, I realized that it's really important to integrate both these qualities within us. Can you share a little bit more on your professional view that why is integrating these qualities inside of within us important, and especially to move on with our relationship life? What are the usual trauma that happen if we're not embracing those qualities?
Okay, so if we just keep going with the yin and yang, we know that it's about balance. So we are all in the journey to balance and to union. The way that the world works right now is patriarchal. So it's very much based on the masculine energy that we have to produce. We have to be efficient. We have to make money. This is the amount of money that we make per hour. If you don't work, you don't make money. If you don't work enough, you don't survive. So all of those are belief systems that we have acquired from the masculine. As we know, we hear a lot, the feminine is rising. So we want to, most of us, that's the thing, that most of us have a strong masculine energy because of the modern world, because of capitalism, right? So that's why the feminine rising is about bringing this other state of consciousness, the feminine, integrating it, which is, it can be softer, it can be wilder, it can be chaotic, as we talk about, but it's creative, it's more flowy. So that's the way that it will present in our regular lives. But when we talk about relationships and more from like the therapeutic perspective, so most of us, we have a father and a mother, right? Our experience with them doesn't matter. However, we all have very unique experiences with our father and mother. So based on how I was raised, my culture, my parents, my education, if I had siblings, like all of those are different factors for us to create belief systems about the feminine and the masculine energy. So, for example, I grew up really admiring my dad because he's like a businessman. And I used to describe him as non-emotional. As a kid, I'm very emotional. So I admire my dad because I consider him non-emotional. It's like, I want to be like him. So I rejected my femininity completely. Since I was very little, I don't like dolls, I don't like dresses, I don't like skirts, I don't like the color pink, I don't like chocolates, and I don't cry, right? Because I attach that as like feminine and I don't want it. So to the point that in high school, in university, I would dress like my dad, right? And it was not a gender expression at all. I just like admire him and I wanted to be like him, right? Then I started, in my teens, I started belly dancing. So it's like the ultimate feminine energy dance. And that's how I started connecting with my femininity, connecting with my creative expression. That itself led me to my spiritual path, which included at the beginning embracing my emotions, embracing my tears, embracing all the range of emotions that I have, right? So it was my belief system that a lot of us have is, if I cry, I'm weak. If I show my emotions, I'm weak. So I cannot show that part of me. I cannot be vulnerable, right? I need to be still and controlled and focused. So just as I had those belief systems about the feminine, we all have different belief systems about either the feminine or the masculine energy. I leave it there for now. I have more to say, but maybe you have questions.
Oh, I just definitely want to resonate with you on that, because I think sharing our real life example that really helps to bring a lot of audience or even myself come into an understanding of what's masculinity is affecting us. Especially as you said, in modern life, we honor the masculinity so much that we need to be on point, we need to be on schedule, and just not having emotion at all. Like when I was little, I even thought of, if I don't have any emotion, I don't feel sad at all, that would be a great thing. Like, why would I have emotion? But looking at my mom was actually the masculine one. So
Okay,
so
yes.
I was like, if she can be like that, I should be like that too. So definitely I resonate with you on that. And I'm sure that a lot of audience out there listening right now, they're suffering a lot of not balancing the both of that. As you were mentioning, that is the part that we're not embracing our feminine part. What about the other way around?
Yeah.
What if we're too much of the feminine part? Sometimes I observe that people, as they are raised into a spirituality, they will begin to saying bad thing about being a logical mind and practical thing, and they're rejecting everything that's masculine. Can you share a little bit more on that? What's the opposite of that? Yeah.
I agree with you. So in therapy terms, that's called pendulation. When you have a pendulum swing, we pass from hating something to embracing, and we just go side to side. So what are we doing there? We're not achieving balance, right? Balance is coming to the center as much as we can. We're still humans, right? So that's a balance that we want to achieve. We don't want to go to the other side. So 2 examples with the other side. The first one is this example that you're saying, like perhaps if people that dive really deep into spirituality and sometimes spiritual bypass, and they're now in the 5D and everything is flowy, and like I just trust, and trust is a massive thing about spirituality, right? Like I trust the universe. But there's people that go to the other side and it's like, I'm just going to trust that the money is going to fall in my lap and I'm not going to work because I'm trusting. Because I'm just flowing, living life. I'm going to go move to Hawaii and or Costa Rica and like wait. It's like now you're losing the sense of action, right? We still need to work. We still need to participate in the world. We still need structure. Not like the full structure that everyday life, but we still need that structure because the masculine grounds us, right? It's grounding, it's stable. So that's why we need the masculine sitting in like that lotus position so the feminine can feel safe to move around. But if we don't have the masculine that is steady and grounded, the feminine is going to go into chaos. And what happens when we go into chaos, and in this case, we go too high, right? It's really hard to come back. So we need to ground. And that masculine is what's going to help us ground into reality, I suppose. Does that one make sense?
It does. In your experience, since you have been through so many clients that come to you for healing, I'm sure that all of us, we have the trauma from each side. What's the most common example that you wanted to share? What are the people most likely to be suffered with either masculine quality or feminine quality?
It's hard to say, but we all have a level of attachment trauma. So that means our relationship with our parents. So for example, if one parent is missing, right? If you were just raised by your mother or just raised by your father, or they were both there, but one was emotionally not present, right? Like because perhaps dad was working all the time, or, from our generations, dad was not very participant in the raising of the kids. So that creates an attachment trauma that creates belief systems that is going to impact our feminine energy or our masculine energy. Again, because I can create a belief system based on my dad, like men are not emotional. That was my belief system. And when men were emotional, I rejected them. I feared them because I didn't know what to do with an emotional man. I was like, they're scary, they're chaotic, like, I don't want them. So what happened in my case, I dated men that were not emotionally intelligent. And then what happened? Like, that relationship like couldn't flow because part of me wanted that vulnerability, but part of me was rejecting that vulnerability. Right? So it's when it gets complex, and that the same thing can happen. For me, my dad was present. He's a great dad. He just, emotions are not his forte. Right? But the same will happen in different ways when a parent is not present, when it's like a single mother or a single parent. For example, as you said, like, my mother was in her masculine. She was like strong one, right? So as you said, like, so as a woman, I have to be like this. Right? So it just shows up in so many, many ways. But in therapy, we have to go right into the core of how is the relationship with your mom? How's the relationship with your dad? If one of them wasn't present, let's say dad wasn't present, then who are your masculine figures? Did you have a brother? Did you have an uncle? Did you have a teacher that was like a really great male teacher, that created that masculine figure for you? So you at least have someone to look for. I didn't have a dad, but I had an uncle that was a really good uncle and supported me in that way. That will shift our belief systems. And again, that shows up in relationships. So that's why it's so important to do the inner work, the shadow work, like writing down, what do I believe about men? What do I believe about women? What do I believe about the masculine energy? What do I believe about the feminine energy? And then look out at our relationship history. If I don't want to keep repeating those patterns, then I need to change my belief systems and I need to bring them into balance. Eventually, ideally, we bring them into union because, we want to be a whole because we're not searching for our other half. We want to be a whole. I don't have to be complete. Balance doesn't mean that you're healed, by the way, right? I know I see the darkness of my feminine. I know that I still have some work to do with my feminine. And now I see my masculine. I welcome my masculine. I accept the vulnerability of my masculine. And I bring it in. Then I become whole. And then I want a partner that has also done that work, that is a whole. And then we can become a super whole together. Right? And like, wouldn't that be so beautiful?
It is a beautiful relationship. I'm sure that a lot of us, we're working towards that. And some of us, we're on that path already. And when you're saying that you want emotionally available partner that's beside you, but unconscious level, you are afraid of that side. This kind of dynamic and pattern is how people are with their life. Not only in terms of relationship, in terms of job or money relationship as well. I feel like it's a lot of trauma within us underneath that unconscious level of how are we believing into our masculinity and feminine. While you're working on that process, how did you track that whether you are in a more a balancing level? How do you cultivate that balancing level and track that level?
So I've been talking more about doing the emotional work, right, of belief systems. That's more perhaps on the intellectual, on the aware. Let me sit with my feelings. Let me sit and think about what belief systems I have. So I see that as that's half of the work, right? The other half of the work for me, and with the work that you have been doing with sacred sexuality, alchemical breathwork, is to go into the subconscious with breath. Breath helps us go into the subconscious. Breath is what links consciousness with subconsciousness, right? So as we're breathing, and with sacred sexuality breathwork, we breathe into different areas of the body, mainly 3 spaces. So as I'm breathing and I'm altering my consciousness through breathwork, so it's really deep breath work that we do, I can awaken memories in my body. So memories that I will not remember with my logic brain, they live in the body. As I breathe into my core, into my sexual space, I might remember that I had some kind of perhaps sexual abuse that I didn't remember because my mind blocked it to protect me. Or that, that was not big. You know, we tend to minimize things. Like, oh no, that was not a big deal. Like, I'm so strong, I moved through it. Right? And as you said earlier, that's in your subconscious. So as we're breathing, we awaken the memories of the body. The thing with breath work is that we don't want to dive into the narrative, the story. In therapy, we dive into the story. In breath work, we get the memories, but we don't want to dive into the story, because if I'm in the energy level, I can start shifting things there. Right? As I regulate my nervous system, I can shift in the energetic, in the cellular level, my energy, my memories, my body. So that's on the sexuality. Then we also work with the emotional body. I can be breathing in session, and then I remember when my boyfriend in like 7th grade said something to me and broke my heart. And since then, now I remember that since that moment, I decided that men were mean. And then I have dated, but I have only dated mean guys, and I don't know why, right? It's like, because I have a belief system that all men are mean. So instead of going to the narrative, we breathe through it and we expand. The fear contracts us, right? So we want to breathe and expand that belief system, expand my cells, my lungs, so I can move through that belief system, through that sensation in my body of closeness. I'm closing to love. Right? So with breath, we open ourselves to love again. So that's on the more energetic, in the more somatic way to move through these traumas or stories or shocks. Yeah, so for me, it's very important to balance those, the conscious and the subconscious way of dealing with or working with a trauma in the body.
So can I put it this way? In therapy session, we're working mainly on the conscious level. When we're doing the breath work, we are able to use the breath to access our unconscious level.
Exactly.
Can we say that?
Just make a parenthesis there. Of course, like there's many other kind of therapists now, therapy styles now that we work in the subconscious. Like there's somatic therapy, there's EMDR. I practice all of those that we can definitely tap into the subconscious. But most of it, because it's talk therapy, we stay on the conscious level. So just to clarify that piece.
So I have 2 questions on that. What is the importance of using the both method? I feel like these both method, one is more of masculine part and one is more of feminine part. And without any one of them, it wouldn't be more of integrating into our whole body, right?
Exactly.
So that's my understanding of that. If you will elaborate more, feel free. And another question of mine is that, as you were saying that breath is a tool that helping us to connect into our subconscious mind. I personally experienced that, and I feel transformative experience of using the breath connecting into our body. But I never really understand why is the breath that's the key that bring into our subconscious mind. How is that all connected?
That can be like a very complex answer, because there is the scientific answer to it. There is like the nervous system answer to it. And then there's also the spiritual answer. I'll go with the spiritual one.
Okay.
Because breath itself means spirit. For example, when we say, are you a spiritual person? Everyone is spiritual because we all breathe, right? So we're all spiritual. So if we just see it from that perspective, if I'm inhaling spirit into my body, if I'm inhaling life force into my body, my breath can reach places that my mind cannot reach. The brain has the capacity, but we don't have the capacity. As in, my brain knows exactly like what my right lung is doing right now. Right? Like that's the automatic nervous system. The brain is like a part of it is like, yep, the right lung is working. Our consciousness doesn't need to know that. Imagine if we were that sensitive to see like, oh, my right lung is not breathing properly. We will be freaking out, right? So our brain is so miraculously designed to only focus in what we need to focus. So with the breath, again, we can access those places that my mind cannot access. So I cannot think that I have trauma stored in my right ovary because my grandma had an abortion. I cannot access that with my logic brain at all, unless I know the story. Unless my mom told me that my grandma had an abortion, then I will know. With my breath, I can. With my breath, if I'm breathing that oxygen into my right ovary and I'm open to receiving information without believing that I'm going crazy, because a lot of clients tell me that, am I going crazy? Am I making that up? My answer is like, no, if it's coming to your consciousness, it's for a reason, right? So the breath can go into the ovary and suddenly we awaken the memories. We can get a knowing. We can get an image for some people that are like visual. We can get an emotion. For a lot of people, especially in therapy, suddenly like sadness starts coming up. Lots of sadness. Like, I'm breathing to my right ovary. I don't know why I'm crying so much, right? So we keep breathing. Even if you're crying, we keep breathing to see if we can get a little bit more information. Oh, there is pain. Is this my pain? And then I keep breathing. Sometimes, yeah, it is my pain. Sometimes like this doesn't feel mine. So this is where we're activating and awakening our intuition. Right? So the more we breathe, the more we slow down, the more sensitive we can get. And again, start getting that information of like, where is that pain coming from? And the breath is the one that is giving us that information.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Yeah, that's really explained a lot of how breath can help us and how breath is so essential to our spiritual journey as well, to connect with our soul. Because I always heard about that, but I never really get a sort of a clear answer on that. Because in Asian community, breath work is not something that everyone do. It's more of that I learned when I come to Canada. And I learned this amazing stuff, how to actually connect myself using the breath. That helps me to remember the things that I used to forgot. As you said, we minimize things, and that traumatized me in a way that I didn't know. So let's bring back to the masculine and feminine quality. That is there any other way you can suggest for anyone if they wanted to cultivate a healthy masculine quality and a healthy feminine quality?
Yeah, I do have a workshop online that is based on all of this. I go in depth describing what's feminine, what falls in the masculine. We work through the belief systems. There's like a sheet that you work through writing down the belief systems that we carry. And then through breath work, we integrate those beliefs. And also, it's important to shift it, right? Shift it into an adaptive belief system, which means like a positive belief system. So let's just continue the example. All men are mean. I want to change that and believe that men are caring. That I want to believe that men are protectors. I want to believe that men can be vulnerable. I want to believe that men are emotional intelligent, right? So that's how I want to shift it. So during the breath work, what we do is we exhale and we release all those belief systems that we don't want anymore from your ovaries, from your testicles, from your heart, and from your mind. We remove all those belief systems, and then we want to inhale the belief systems that we want. Right? Like, or like, women, we can cry. Crying is not a weakness. right? Or like women, we can be sexual beings without feeling shame. We can be free sexual beings. So through the breathwork, we nail those new belief systems. So in a way, we're like reprogramming our cellular memory as we do that work. So yeah, you can find more information about that on my website. And I have also wrote a blog post about my journey to healing my feminine. So there's some information on my website about that.
Awesome. This brings me to an important question. I wanted to dive into another area that your profession today is that what is Tantra and what is the role of the Tantra in spirituality? And what do you think that is becoming more and more important that we need to bring everyone's attention to that?
Well, the reason why I love Tantra, so Tantra, as I said, is a philosophy. It's a tradition. So it comes from India, from yoga, but there is different lineages of yoga. In the one that is more popular, even if the popular is just, doing the postures, doing the asanas, with regular, more like Vedanta, like yoga, is about finding stillness. And then we will dissolve into the divine if we don't move, if we withdraw the senses, right? I close my eyes. I don't want to listen. I want a silence. Tantra is a path of action. So Tantra, we use the senses, we use the body to awaken. That's why sexuality is part of it, because with sexuality, I can achieve the divine. I can become the divine. So, because it's a path of action, Tantra sees everything, sees duality. Everything is part of creation. So all the good that we see is welcome. All the bad that we see is welcome, because everything, absolutely everything, is divine. War is divine. Peace is divine. It welcomes everything. And then let's say I don't like war. Tantra says, what are you going to do about it then? Like, do something about it. Don't just go into a cave and meditate. If you really don't like what you see, act. And that doesn't mean be a yogi and dress in red and dance. Like, that's not Tantra. Tantra is like, okay, what am I going to do about this? Do I need to do like a fundraiser? Do I need to go to university and study law? Do I want to become the president? Like, use your body, use your consciousness to create active change in the world. And that's why I'm so passionate, and that's why Tantra is like my favorite, because it uses sexual energy, which is life force. That's all that sexual energy is, life force, because we can create life, right? So if I'm not making a baby, then I have all this energy within myself that I can use it for good. I can use it to make my community a better place, right? Because I know that it's not only for me. I know this life force is to share and to act and to be and also to experience. It's also about enjoying life, right? It's not about withdrawing. I'm going to sit in meditation for 20 hours. It's like, you like that cake? Enjoy that cake, but have an orgasm as you eat the cake, because you're human. You chose to be in this body to enjoy life. So enjoy life. Make love to life itself all the time. Last thing that I'm going to say, Tantra or sacred sexuality is about being in relationship with life. It's about giving and receiving. So that's why the breath. As I inhale, I'm receiving life into my body. As I exhale, I'm giving myself to life. So it's this constant interaction with life.
So it's really hard to imagine. You're saying how the sexuality connects with the divine, that we always heard about it, but in the physical sense, we just cannot picture how when we're making love with another human being, but we can do the same thing with the universe, with the source, with whatever we're passionate of. Is there any example that the Tantra into practical world?
In terms of relationships?
Or in terms of how Tantra bring that connection into our life, connection with the divine, how does that work?
So, because in Tantra, one of the basic principles and one of the stages of Tantra is that you recognize everything as divine. Everything is divine. So, I see you as divine, right? You are a literal incarnation of the goddess. So if I know you, Fiona, are the goddess, then I'm like so delighted that I'm having a conversation with you. So in a way, because I'm so happy to be with you, in a way, as we're exchanging, that's what we're doing. We're giving and receiving right now. We are making love to each other because I am penetrating you with this information. So I'm in the masculine position because I'm penetrating you. You are in the feminine because you're receiving me.
Yes.
Right?
Wow.
So that can go to anything. That can go to the trees. When we go out for a hike here in Vancouver, like we go and hug the tree and I breathe and I receive the tree in my body and I'm literally making love to the tree. Right? So in relationships, that's how we take it, because I recognize that my partner is God or a goddess. So that means that when we're making love, I am making love to God. So what happens when we have that realization? It's just like expands. But obviously it takes a lot because, you know, our partners have defects. They're definitely not perfect. They make us angry. They annoy us. Because that's part of God too, right? The shadow and the light. So that's how, and that's just like a small part. Like that's a completely different topic. We could expand into that, but that's like in a nutshell, like what Tantra is when it comes to sexuality and union and interactions.
I love how you put it that way. It makes me more understanding and more accessible for a lot of people as well. Because it's really hard to imagine how it's like when we're making love with the physical stuff, how can we make love with in the way that we're giving and receiving as well? Making love is both ways. Beautiful explanation. And what are the misconceptions that you found that a lot of people have around Tantra? Especially maybe in West, and how did you help people to move through that?
So the main misconception is that Tantra is sexuality, like literally like physical sex. And usually there is neo-Tantra that is really focused on that. However, as I said, that's only like a tiny little percentage. So for me, the basic principle is that to know that you're making love to life on each breath. You do not need a partner. You do not need to have like physical intercourse to be practicing Tantra. That's one of the biggest misconceptions, and that's why it also kept me away from Tantra for like 10 years, because I thought it was all about sexuality. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. So like Tantra is just so deep. It's a philosophy. It's just like, we know yoga. Yoga is not only like warrior one. Yoga is like so complex and so deep that we will never learn everything. So that's the biggest misconception.
I do like how you brought that misconception up, because when I think of Tantra, I think about if I want to go Tantra to learn more about Tantra, I will have to have a partner. I will have to have another person that I can practice with. But as you're saying, we don't need another person to practice that, right? If we wanted to learn from you, what is the typical tantric section or personal practice look like?
So Tantra, one of the main things is breath. So any kind of pranayama, any kind of breathing exercise, we just want to activate the consciousness of I'm receiving and I'm giving. So once you activate that little thing, Like you can see your pranayama, your breathing practices are going to change. Part of Tantra is learning about the gods and the goddesses, specifically Shiva and Shakti. And again, within Tantra, there's many different paths. But being in a tantric path, a big part of it is learning about all the goddesses and all the powers that the goddess holds. A lot of Tantra is also mantra repetition. Sometimes it's about sticking to one mantra of a goddess and seeing what happens, what awakens within you when you have one specific mantra. Another element of Tantra is yantras, which is sacred geometry. So sometimes it's just meditating, observing sacred geometry, and that shifts something in your brain. I'm not an expert on that. Drawing sacred geometry, that can also activate your consciousness in different ways. So that's how, let's call it, real Tantra will look like in practice. Sometimes if you go to a Tantra teacher, most likely a traditional Tantric teacher is just going to give you a mantra and they're going to say, repeat this mantra every day for the next 3 months and then come back to me and see what happened in your life. Like that would be like a more traditional Tantric teacher. As you know, the work that we do, that you have been coming to, because it's that sacred sexuality, alchemical breathwork, is very active breath work where we're like discovering things, but it's not necessarily pure Tantra. That's why it's sacred sexuality. So sacred sexuality is the umbrella term of all the esoteric practices that have to do with sexuality. So Tantra will be there, sexual alchemy from Egypt, the Isis mystery school, Taoism and Taoism, which carries lots of sexuality. There's also in Kabbalah, there's also a sacred sexuality lineage there. So that's what I teach, sacred sexuality, that covers a little bit of all of this.
There's a lot of it already.
Yeah.
We'll never stop learning. So what is the suggestion for you to give out to people who are new to the path of trying to learn to sexuality, alchemize, and or try to learn Tantra?
Just to start breathing consciously. And that's probably what every single spiritual teacher will tell you. Just to start breathing consciously. Some people says, I breathe. And my answer is like, you're not breathing. That you're alive doesn't mean that you're breathing. Like you're just breathing like top of your lungs. You know, you're like keeping your air here. Breathing is like belly breathing. Like be conscious of that.
Yes.
When we breathe, we become present. The breath doesn't exist in the future or in the past. So breath will naturally bring you to the present. We already spoke about breath will activate your subconscious. Breath is going to activate your intuition. So really the one practice that you need to do is be aware of your breath. That's the first and really probably like the only step that you need to take ever in your life if you wanted to.
Definitely. Thank you for breaking it down so simple. I feel like that's definitely a foundation stone. Last question before closing that I usually do with our guests is that one thing you wish you would have done or you would have said to your younger self?
Honestly, I would say just keep doing what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, that's the path that got me here. I think that there was definitely, as we all do, hold back a little bit for what people will say. I would say that was me on my 20s. I held a lot back. I was learning a lot and I was not sharing enough, I would say. And now my brain has so much to catch up. Now I want to like teach so much because I wasn't teaching that much back then. So yeah, don't hold back. Doesn't matter what people think. The people that like your message, that resonate with you, are going to be there. And the ones who just doesn't resonate with you, they will leave and they will find someone that they do resonate with. It's okay. We all get to choose who we resonate with. So it doesn't really matter. Just be you, do you.
Beautiful. So from rate 1 to 10, how much do you think that you are right now operating from your heart?
Honestly, my heart has been leading the way for the last 2 years, like 2.5 years probably. So I would say like maybe a 9. Can I always go
Wow.
deeper? Sure. But my heart definitely leads the way.
Wow, that's one thing I admire the most. That's how I found out that heart is so important and we need to let our heart lead our way, not only to follow our passion, but also interact with people with our hearts as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And last but not least, what is that one thing you can suggest anyone to create the mind and heart coherence?
One of my favorite yoga teachers, Anna Forrest, she talks a lot about relaxing the neck because the neck is a bridge between the mind and the heart. And we hold a lot of tension in the neck, right? So we're stiff.
Yes.
The more stiff we're in the neck, this is not connected.
Oh.
So it's a very simple practice that is just like, move your neck more. Whenever you feel stressed, move your neck. Whenever someone asks you a question and you don't have the answer right away, take a breath and be like, let me think about it. Let me move my neck. And you see, like, you feel the cracks when you move it. Then we're creating more space for like the mind and heart to connect and flow better.
Wow, I love it. It's so practical. It's so amazing. And it's actually how I was like back in like 9 to 5 job doing whatever I don't love. I always feel like the soreness of the neck. Never really able to feel my relaxing moment over here. So definitely thank you so much, Fabiola.
You're welcome.
So where can the audience find you? What are you currently offering?
Yes. So just on my website, Fabiola Perez, just my name.com. On my Instagram, I always forget what's my exact handle, but I guess you can tag it there. I always say like I could be sharing more. And yeah, I think that's just the best way to keep connected, to see the events that are coming. And as I said, I do have that inner matrimony workshop online. That's the one that it's very accessible, and it's always my plan is to share more online, but I need more time for that.
No problem. All right. Well, thank you so much for today's, and I'll give you your iPad a break. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
here.
Fiona.